All right, so get this. We're diving deep into the Epic of Gilgamesh today, but not the usual flood story you might have heard. We're going deeper into tablets 3 and 4. Things get really wild there. You ready to uncover some secrets about Gilgamesh, his epic journey, and some seriously mysterious figures?
Absolutely. We'll be using a video by Billy Carson as our guide.
Oh, cool. Which one?
It's from 4Biddenknowledge, titled Weirdest Facts About Gilgamesh Part 2. It's packed with fascinating details that go way beyond the typical interpretations.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So just to paint a picture for our listeners, we're talking about Gilgamesh the king. Not just strong, but holding a full-grown lion like it's nothing. And his journey to the cedar forest. More like a marathon that takes months. We're talking giants, ancient tech, maybe even gods.
It really challenges our assumptions about ancient civilizations. Right off the bat, we meet Gilgamesh, and his companion Enkidu Gilgamesh is this larger-than-life figure, restless, always pushing boundaries, and obsessed with finding immortality.
Yeah, he's like the original Indiana Jones, always on some crazy adventure.
Yeah.
But Enkidu, how does he fit into all of this?
Well, he's described as being fashioned, not born.
Okay, fashion, what does that even mean? Like custom made?
Exactly. And that's where it gets interesting. Carson even suggests that Enkidu might be some kind of ancient cyborg.
Whoa, hold on. A cyborg sidekick thousands of years ago? That's mind-blowing.
I know, right? It makes you wonder what else they might have imagined or even achieved.
Definitely paints a different picture of Enkidu. Not just a loyal companion, but maybe something more complex.
Right.
So speaking of complex, let's talk about that cedar forest trek. 50 leagues a day for months. That's insane.
Yeah, it really highlights their strength and stamina for sure. I mean, they were covering the equivalent of about 150 miles every single day.
Wow. Try to wrap your head around that for a second.
They'd break for food after 20 leagues and only rest after another 10.
That'd be like walking for a month and a half straight for us normal folks.
Yeah, pretty much. But they weren't just tough guys, though.
Right? There's this whole spiritual aspect to their journey as well.
Yeah.
They're not just out for a stroll in the woods.
Absolutely. They paid homage to the Anunnaki gods.
The Anunnaki.
Yeah, powerful beings in their mythology, constantly seeking their favor. They dug wells facing the setting sun dedicated to the god Shamash and left offerings of flour on mountain peaks. Their physical strength was matched by a deep reverence for the divine.
So it's like this blend of raw power and spiritual devotion. It's like they're almost superpowered in a way.
Yeah, and it all leads them to Humbaba, the guardian of the cedar forest. Now this is where it gets really intriguing.
Okay, I'm all ears. Humbaba. This is the big bad boss battle, right?
Sure. Humbaba is often depicted as a terrifying monster, but Carson's take is completely different.
Oh, how so?
He suggests Humbaba might not have been a living creature at all, but a form of advanced technology.
Technology? Like what are we talking? Robots in ancient Sumeria?
Well, maybe not robots as we picture them today, but think about Humbaba's abilities. He could detect movement from 300 miles away and obliterate intruders with fire.
300 miles. That's like ancient radar or something. And this fire may be some kind of energy weapon.
It makes you question everything we thought we know about ancient technology.
For sure. Suddenly, the cedar forest seems less like a peaceful nature reserve and more like a high-security zone.
Exactly. But this journey isn't just about brute strength and advanced tech, though.
Right. There's another layer to all of this. Gilgamesh's dreams. They're full of crazy symbols and foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's like these messages from the gods trying to guide him.
Totally. So tell me more about these dreams. What kind of crazy stuff was Gilgamesh seeing?
Well, imagine this, a falling mountain, a wild bull, the heavens roaring, a bolt of lightning. They're all super intense and vivid, and each one seems to hint at the challenges and victories that lie ahead.
It's like they're trying to tell him something, but in a language we don't fully understand.
Yeah. And luckily for Gilgamesh, he has Enkidu to help decipher those messages.
Right. Enkidu was fashioned. So maybe he had insights into things that Gilgamesh, with his human side, couldn't grasp.
Exactly. He becomes this interpreter, offering reassurance and guidance, strengthening their bond even further.
So we've got this intense journey, potential ancient tech guarding a sacred forest and prophetic dreams guiding their path. It's like a Sumerian blockbuster movie waiting to happen.
And we haven't even gotten to the best part yet. They finally reach the cedar forest knowing they must confront Humbaba.
Okay, so it's about to go down. This is the moment of truth. But here's something I don't get. What if the god Enlil, Yahweh, thinking about all this?
That's the interesting part. While the tablets don't give us Enlil's inner monologue, they do mention he seems to approve of their mission.
Wait, so the god who's famous for unleashing the flood is okay with them messing with this sacred forest.
It makes you question the motivations of the gods in this story.
Big time. Okay, so let's say they managed to defeat Humbaba. They've achieved their goal, right? But at what cost? They've killed this guardian, disrupted this sacred space. What happens next?
Well, you're hitting on a crucial point here. The cedar forest wasn't just a collection of trees, it was considered sacred. By slaying Humbaba and cutting down the cedars, Gilgamesh and Enkidu disrupt the natural order, and that has consequences.
It's like that old saying, play with fire and you're going to get burned.
But in this case, it's more like, mess with sacred trees and face the wrath of the gods.
Okay, so what kind of wrath are we talking about here?
Well, the tablets describe a series of events that suggest the world itself is reacting to their actions.
Like what?
There are plagues, famines, and a growing sense of unease among the people. It's like their triumph over Humbaba has unleashed a wave of chaos and suffering.
Yeah, it's a classic tale, isn't it? Humans overreaching, thinking they can control nature, only to find out that actions have consequences. And I bet Gilgamesh, with his desire for immortality, isn't too happy about this turn of events.
You're right. This is where Gilgamesh's internal journey takes a turn. He's confronted with the weight of his actions.
Like a cosmic reality check.
Exactly. Remember, he was driven by ambition, a thirst for power and eternal life. But now, facing the fallout of his quest, he starts to question everything.
So it's not just a physical journey anymore. It's an existential crisis. The quest for immortality suddenly seems a lot less appealing when you're dealing with plagues and famines.
It makes you think, right?
So what does Gilgamesh do? Does he just give up?
He decides to seek out Utnapishtim, the only human known to have achieved immortality.
Utnapishtim. Who's that?
It's like he's hoping Utnapishtim answers the key to fixing the mess he's made, or maybe even a way to escape the consequences altogether.
So he's like the ultimate guru, the wise old sage with all the secrets.
In a way.
Yeah.
But wait, isn't Utnapishtim the same guy as Zusudra, the Sumerian Noah we talked about earlier? The one who survived the Great Flood?
Exactly. It's the same figure known by different names in different versions of the story. And his tale is directly tied to the flood, the ultimate example of divine wrath and human resilience.
Okay, so now things are getting really interesting. We've got Gilgamesh grappling with his own mortality and the repercussions of his actions, setting off to find this legendary survivor, hoping for answers, maybe even a shortcut to eternal life. But I have a feeling it's not going to be that easy. You're absolutely right. The journey to find Utnapishtim is no walk in the park. It's described as this incredibly dangerous, challenging odyssey full of perilous landscapes, fearsome creatures, and constant tests of Gilgamesh's willpower.
It sounds like the stakes just got even higher. This isn't just about finding a magical fountain of youth anymore. It's about confronting the consequences of your actions and facing your own inner demons. So we'll have to wait for the next part of our deep dive to see what happens when Gilgamesh finally reaches this legendary survivor. Stay tuned, because the story is far from over. All right, so we left off with Gilgamesh and Enkidu at the edge of the cedar forest, ready to face Humbaba, this potential ancient superweapon guarding those precious trees. What happens when these titans clash? It sounds like something straight out of a Sumerian superhero comic.
It's a scene that truly captures the imagination. The tablets depict this intense, chaotic battle with Humbaba bellowing like a wild bull shaking the very earth. But remember, Gilgamesh and Enkidu are incredibly strong. They've literally been training for this for months.
Right, but strength can only get you so far. How do they even stand a chance against something that can supposedly detect them from hundreds of miles away? What's their strategy?
Here's where their bond truly shines. Enkidu, wise and experienced in battle, advises Gilgamesh.
So he's like the brains of the operation.
You could say that. The tablets quote him saying, "The one who watches from the side is a careful man, but the one who walks in front protects himself and saves his comrade." They work together, relying on each other's strengths, using strategy and teamwork to overcome Humbaba's power.
So it's not just brute force. It's about trust and tactics, like a perfectly coordinated ancient Sumerian battle dance.
Oh.
I love it. But I got to ask, what's the God Enlil, Yahweh thinking about all this? He's supposed to be all about order and justice, right?
That's the fascinating part. While the tablets don't give us Enlil's inner monologue, they do mention he seems to approve of their mission.
So he's like, go get him, boys.
Maybe he sees something in Gilgamesh, some purpose that goes beyond just cutting down trees. Or maybe he's got a bigger plan in mind. Who knows? It really makes you question the motivations of the gods in this story.
Talk about divine ambiguity. But, okay, let's say they managed to defeat Humbaba. They've achieved their goal. But at what cost? They've killed this guardian, disrupted this sacred space. What happens next?
You're hitting on a crucial point. The cedar forest wasn't just a collection of trees, it was considered sacred. By slaying Humbaba and cutting down the cedars, Gilgamesh and Enkidu disrupt the natural order, and that has consequences.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, play with fire and you're going to get burned. But in this case, it's more like mess with sacred trees and face the wrath of the gods. So what kind of wrath are we talking about here?
Well, the tablets describe a series of events that suggest the world itself is reacting to their actions. There are plagues, famines, and a growing sense of unease among the people. It's like their triumph over Humbaba has unleashed a wave of chaos and suffering.
It's like a cosmic boomerang. Their actions are coming back to bite them. And I bet Gilgamesh, with his desire for immortality, isn't too happy about this turn of events.
You're right. This is where Gilgamesh's internal journey takes a turn. He's confronted with the weight of his actions. Remember, he was driven by ambition, a thirst for power and eternal life. But now, facing the fallout of his quest, he starts to question everything.
So it's not just a physical journey anymore, it's an existential crisis. The quest for immortality suddenly seems a lot less appealing when you're dealing with plagues and famines.
Yeah, it makes you reconsider your priorities.
So what does Gilgamesh do? Does he just give up? Throw in the towel?
He decides to seek out Utnapishtim, the only human known to have achieved immortality. It's like he's hoping Utnapishtim holds the answers, the key to fixing the mess he's made, or maybe even a way to escape the consequences altogether.
Utnapishtim. So he's like the ultimate guru, the wise old sage with all the secrets.
In a way.
Yeah.
But wait, isn't Utnapishtim the same guy as Yasudra, the Sumerian Noah we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
the one who survived the Great Flood? Exactly. It's the same figure known by different names in different versions of the story. And his tale is directly tied to the flood, the ultimate example of divine wrath and human resilience.
Okay, so now things are getting really interesting. We've got Gilgamesh grappling with his own mortality and the repercussions of his actions, setting off to find this legendary survivor, hoping for answers, maybe even a shortcut to eternal life. But I have a feeling it's not going to be that easy.
You're absolutely right. The journey to find Utnapishtim is no walk in the park. It's described as this incredibly dangerous, challenging odyssey full of perilous landscapes, fearsome creatures, and constant tests of Gilgamesh's willpower.
Sounds intense. It's like the ultimate test of his character. And I bet the stakes are higher than ever before. This isn't just about finding a magical fountain of youth anymore. It's about confronting the consequences of your actions and facing your own inner demons. It's a story that speaks to us all. So we left Gilgamesh on this crazy quest to find Utnapishtim, the immortal survivor of the Great Flood. It's like he's searching for answers, a way to fix all the chaos he's unleashed, and maybe even snag that secret to eternal life. But finding this guy sounds nearly impossible.
Right. The tablets paint a vivid picture of Gilgamesh's journey, scorching deserts, treacherous waters, facing down who knows what kind of creatures. It's a physical and emotional trial, pushing him to his absolute limits.
It's like the universe is testing him. Say, okay, you want immortality, let's see what you're made of. But I gotta know, does he actually find Utnapishtim?
He does, but it's not a simple knock-knock, I'm here for the immortality seminar kind of meeting. When Gilgamesh finally reaches Utnapishtim's dwelling, it's less about getting answers and more about getting schooled.
Schooled. Like Utnapishtim gives him a pop quiz on the meaning of life.
Not exactly a quiz, but Utnapishtim, being this wise ancient figure, doesn't offer easy solutions.
So no shortcuts to immortality.
Not really. Instead of handing over the secrets to eternal life, he shares his own story, the story of the flood, emphasizing the fragility of life and the inevitability of death.
It's like he's saying, hey kid, before you go chasing immortality, maybe try understanding mortality first. Makes sense.
So what's Gilgamesh's reaction to this? Does he have a meltdown?
It's interesting. The tablets don't explicitly describe a meltdown, but they do mention Utnapishtim challenging Gilgamesh to stay awake for 6 days and 7 nights straight.
6 days and 7 nights. Without sleep. That's brutal.
The idea being, if you can't even conquer sleep, how can you expect to conquer death?
That's a good point. I don't know anyone who could pull that off. So did Gilgamesh manage to stay awake?
Nope. Exhausted from his journey. He falls asleep almost immediately.
Yeah, I figured as much.
It's a powerful moment, though, showing that even this legendary hero, this demigod, is still bound by human limitations.
Exactly. It brings him back down to earth, so to speak.
Yeah.
But what does Utnapishtim do? Does he just send him packing?
Yeah. I'm curious, too. After all that effort, did Gilgamesh get anything out of it?
No, he uses this experience to teach Gilgamesh a valuable lesson. He tells him that true fulfillment comes from embracing the present moment, appreciating the life you have, rather than obsessing over something you can't control.
It's a shift in perspective, right? Instead of chasing this elusive idea of immortality. Focus on living a meaningful life right now.
Yeah.
So does Gilgamesh take this advice to heart?
It's hard to say for sure, but Onepishtim does offer him a parting gift. The location of a plant that can restore youth. It's not immortality, but it's something.
Okay, so it's like a consolation prize.
Yeah.
A little taste of what he's been chasing. Does he at least get to try this plant?
He finds the plant, but in a cruel twist of fate, while he's bathing, a serpent steals it.
Oh no. Seriously. You've got to be kidding me. A serpent. Talk about adding insult to injury. Poor Gilgamesh. So after all this, what's the ultimate message of the Epic of Gilgamesh? What are we supposed to take away from this ancient tale?
I think it speaks to our deepest fears and desires. We all want to leave our mark on the world, to make a difference, and maybe even cheat death. But the Epic of Gilgamesh reminds us that true meaning comes from the journey, not just the destination. It's about the connections we forge, the experiences we have, the way we face our challenges, both internal and external.
So instead of obsessing over living forever, maybe we should focus on making the most of the time we have.
Right, and maybe, just maybe, through our actions, our stories, we can achieve a different kind of immortality, one that resonates through generations.
That's a beautiful thought. It really makes you think. If even a king, a demigod, couldn't escape death, what does that say about our own search for meaning and purpose? Maybe it's not about defying death, but about embracing life with all its complexities and contradictions.
It's a question worth pondering, for sure, and that's the beauty of the Epic of Gilgamesh. It leaves us with more questions than answers, inviting us to explore our own beliefs, our own desires, and ultimately to create our own stories.
Well said. And on that note, we wrap up our deep dive into the Epic of Gilgamesh. Thanks for joining us on this journey. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.